we're going to talk about Cain and Abel today. So let's look at Genesis 4. So in Genesis 4 it says, starting in verse 2, now Abel kept flocks and Cain worked the soil. In the course of time, Cain brought some of the fruits of the soil as an offering to the Lord, but Abel brought fat portions from some of the firstborn of his flock. The Lord looked with favor on Abel and his offering, but on Cain and his offering he did not look with favor. So Cain was very angry and his face was downcast. Okay, so the first thing we have to talk about is, why did Cain kill Abel? It says um, in verse 5, but on Cain and his offering, he did not look with favor. So Cain was very angry and his face was downcast. So sometimes people will say that Cain was jealous, or so some people say that Cain was jealous, and that's why. But notice that the first thing is that it's his attitude that's the problem. It's not that Cain's sacrifice was not accepted because it was plants. Sometimes you'll hear people say that he should have sacrificed animals instead of plants. But we know from Leviticus 2 and Leviticus 5 that using grain or plants is acceptable sacrifice. Leviticus 2 talks about the grain offering, so we know specifically that that's okay. But the problem is Cain's attitude. As soon as he finds out that God looked with favor on Abel's, he gets mad. He doesn't say, I'm sorry, and what can I do to make it better? Or I can try harder next time, or what did I do wrong? He just gets mad right away. And so that tells you that his attitude is wrong from the get-go. There's a lot of suggestion that Cain was not very focused on serving God. He was just doing his own thing and just giving sacrifice because he had to. So again, you see this more with the heart. And we know that his heart's wrong. Because in verse 6, God says, "Then the Lord said to Cain, why are you angry? Why is your face so downcast? If you do what is right, will you not be accepted? But if you not do what is right, sin is crouching at your door." That sin is crouching at his door is the idea that that sin is just right there. He has to kind of ward it off. It's not. He hasn't been serving God so closely that sin is a long way off. He's really close to crossing the line already, and this idea with the sacrifice just pushes him right over. In verse 8 it says, "Now Cain said to his brother Abel, let's go out to the field. And while they were out in the field, Cain attacked his brother Abel and killed him." Sometimes people will say that he hit him with a rock or whatever. The truth is we don't know. We don't know how he killed Abel. They could have wrestled. He could have hit him with a rock. He could have used a blaster. We don't know. The truth is the Bible says he killed him. Then the Lord said to Cain, where's your brother? And he says, I don't know, am I my brother's keeper? The idea is just, Cain not only is angry, but now he's lying to God, which probably isn't going to go real well. God says, you're under a curse and driven from the ground, which opened its mouth to receive your brother's blood. When you work the ground, will no longer yield its crops, you will be a restless wanderer on the earth. And Cain says, my punishment is more than I can bear. Today you are driving me from the land, and I will be hidden from your presence. I will be a restless wanderer on the earth, and whoever finds me will kill me. So there's a couple things here. First of all, in verse 16, we see that Cain went to a place called Nod, which is east of Eden. So that's where he's going to wander. Nod means wandering. That's what the word means. So that's where he's going to be. One of the questions that comes up here is, whoever finds me will kill me, from verse 14. And so people ask about, who was Cain afraid of? If it's just Adam and Eve and Cain and Abel, why is he afraid? But the truth is we don't know how many people are on the earth at this time. And I'll show you a little chart here. It shows how quickly the population can expand, especially if people are living a long time. And if you average out that a woman has a baby every 2 years, it doesn't take long for the population to explode. And in that case, all of these people would be either closely or distantly related to Abel. And so they're gonna want revenge for what Cain did. So he's probably justifiably afraid. So God says, I'm going to put a mark on you. We don't know what the mark is. This is in verse 15. The Lord put a mark on Cain so that no one who found him would kill him. Again, we don't know what the mark is, but something that lets people know that he's under God's protection. And so he goes out, and he's going to live in Nod. And then we also see these two different lines we have Cain on one side, and then Adam and Eve have another son, and his name is Seth. And then we're going to see these two lines come out where you have Cain's line on one side and Seth's line on the other. And so normally for teaching, I have the students read through each one of these names, but I'm not going to do that now. So, so this is Cain's line over here on the left side. And just a few things in there. You're going to see that there is a Lamech on both sides. Lamech on Cain's side and Lamech on Seth's side. And Lamech in chapter 4, verse 23, says he has two wives. Actually, let's go back to verse 19. Married two women, one named Ada and the other named Zillah. Ada gave birth to Jubal. He was the father of those who live in tents. His brother's name was Jubal. He was the father of all who play the harp. Zillah also had a son, Tubal-Cain, who forged all kinds of tools out of bronze and iron. And so the reason this is important is that this time we see the development of culture. We see herding and nomadic lifestyles developing. We see music from Jubal, which is where we get our word for Jubilee. And then we see Tubal-Cain working with metal. So we're going to start seeing particularly farm tools and weapons coming out after this time. Then Lamech also says, I have killed a man for wounding me, a young man for injuring me. If Cain is avenged 7 times, then Lamech 77 times. So what we see in verse 24 here is this increase in violence that Lamech is saying, I'm going to take revenge. When something bad happens to me, I'm going to take care of it myself and get my revenge. Nobody's going to attack me because I'm strong and this real independent, I can do what I want and take vengeance, which obviously is not a godly trait. That's why we talk about the vengeance is God's and whatnot. So okay, then on the other side, we have the list of godly people here, and we do have the ages in here. The important thing about these ages, we're not going to talk about all of them, but this is where people get the idea of how old the earth is, being about 6,000 years old, 4004 BC. If you take these ages and add them up from the time we know of Abraham and his age and whatnot and back it up, adding these together, you will get about 4004 BC. So that's where that number comes from. Notice, first of all, how long each one of them is, 912, 905, 910, 895, and so forth. The only exception to that is Enoch, who's 365, and then it says the Lord takes him away. There's some debate about what that means. Some people think that means Enoch never died. Others think that God just died then when he was young. Notice, first of all, that the most righteous person, or at least when they talk about walking with God, is the one who dies youngest. Remember that what God's goal is to bring us back into a relationship with him, and we have to pass through death to do that. And so in Enoch's case, the fact that he's walking close with God and dies sooner is not a punishment. It's that God is bringing him to live with him sooner. God is bringing him to heaven sooner. And then after him we see Methuselah, which is 969, which is the oldest man in the Bible, which is a good quiz question, by the way. And then we see Lamech and Noah. So this is the line tracing from Seth, from tracing the line from Seth to Noah, and then Noah is going to be the next big break. So I think we will stop there for today, and then we'll talk about Noah tomorrow.